How to improve your beneficial bacteria and microbiome. Did you know that most over-the-counter supplements for probiotics contain two species, Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium, and these two species make up only 2 to 5% of your overall microbiome. And there are 500 and maybe even 1,000 different species that live in your gut and are beneficial to your health. So taking a probiotic supplement is not going to make a big impact, especially if you're looking for solutions to build up your microbiome after taking antibiotics, or maybe you have inflammation or digestive issues, or something else that you're hoping your gut health can help you with. So in this video, I am sharing 8 things that you can do to improve your beneficial bacteria and 7 things to try to avoid. I'm not giving you a big list to overwhelm you. I want to make sure you have options. Pick the easiest thing that you can start with, master it, and then move on to the next thing. But before we get started, let me tell you my name. I'm Noor Zibde, a functional and integrative dietitian, and I've been helping my patients for the last 10 years overcome digestive issues like IBS, Crohn's disease, colitis, SIBO, acid reflux, H. pylori, as well as food sensitivities and chronic inflammation. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Remember that this is an educational video. It does not diagnose or treat a medical situation, so make sure you check with your healthcare providers to decide what is best for you. So let's get started. Tip number 1, eat more prebiotic foods. Prebiotics are fibers that feed your beneficial bacteria that you already have. And these include foods like onion, garlic, shallots, leek, celery, asparagus, underripe bananas, apple, oats, chicory root, jicama, and a few others. These foods are the food for our good bacteria. They will ferment them and they will produce beneficial compounds that will be good for our gut and overall body. Now, there's a little caveat or trick. If you have IBS, SIBO, or if you already have bloating or stomach pain, gas, constipation, or diarrhea, these foods might backfire if you start eating them too much and too quickly. And often when I work with people who already have these conditions, we actually have to remove these foods, fix the underlying root problem, and then get back to adding them. So if you're already doing well digestive wise, go ahead and start these foods. If you're not and you have to eliminate them, keep in mind that the elimination or like diets like FODMAPs or other diets should not be followed long term, because these foods are direct food to your good bacteria, so we need to get back to eating them. Tip number 2, eat fermented foods. These are things like fermented vegetables like sauerkraut. You can ferment carrots, cucumber, and other vegetables, yogurt or kefir. You can also go for plant-based kefir if you can't tolerate dairy. So these fermented foods contain live cultures. Start with a teaspoon of sauerkraut and work your way up to a couple of tablespoons. Generally, I'm not a big fan of kombucha because it contains yeast and it's a different fermentation process than yogurt, for example, and sauerkraut. And people with yeast conditions or candida, they may actually not do well with kombucha. So it's not my go-to fermented food. Tip number 3, eat more plant foods in general. There are studies that show that people who eat more than 30 different plant foods actually have a more diverse and a better microbiome. So pause this video for a second and think of all the different plant foods that you eat. Include the vegetables, fruit, nuts, whole grains, spices and herbs that you incorporate in your cooking. So if you have 30, then you're doing a great job already. Maybe try to add a few more. If you have less than 30 different foods, then here's a little bit of homework. Pick one thing, one new thing. When you go to the grocery store and try it this week, and then keep adding new foods to your diet. Tip number 4 is to eat more omega-3s. Now, the easiest way to get omega-3 fatty acids is from fatty fish like salmon, tuna, trout, herring, cod, and others. Sardines and anchovies are great omega-3 sources because they're small fish and they don't accumulate mercury. For salmon, it's going to be, in most fish, it's better to get wild caught tuna. I always recommend the light chunk tuna as opposed to white or albacore because it has less mercury. There are plant-based sources of omega-3s like chia seed, flaxseed, walnut, and other nuts. The body has to convert the plant-based omega-3s to EPA and DHA. These are the anti-inflammatory omega-3s that we get from fish. Not everybody does this conversion very efficiently. Try to incorporate it once a week, maybe twice a week. If this is still difficult, I do recommend omega-3 supplements. You want to get quality products. You want to get a product that does not smell fishy, because that means it's damaged. What omega-3s do, they actually improve the levels of Lactobacillus and Bifido in the body. They also improve the levels of a keystone species that is called Akkermansia. This Akkermansia species depends on omega-3s. And the next one I'm going to share more than prebiotic foods. So keep that in mind. Tip number 5 is to eat more polyphenol-rich foods. Polyphenols are a type of antioxidants. They reduce the inflammation in the gut, increase the antioxidant levels, and they actually improve Bifidobacterium and Akkermansia. There are lots of foods that contain polyphenols. Berries is the first group that comes to my mind. Blueberry, cranberry, blackberry, pomegranate, red grapes. Actually, in the red grape skin, there is resveratrol, which is a very important antioxidant, turmeric, which is found as a root or in spices, olive oil, pecans, green tea, and even chocolate. So there are lots of foods that you may already have in your house that have lots of antioxidants, so make sure you try to incorporate these. Tip number 6 is to manage stress. Now, this is a big one. We're all stressed out. We have so much on our plates, and we're running around all the time with a lot of responsibilities, and even health can cause more stress. So this is easier said than done. But what happens with stress is that it lowers gut motility, which is the muscle movement in the digestive tract. It reduces the enzyme production in your stomach, in the intestines, the bile flow from your gallbladder. And all of these lead to stagnation in the gut, and that will cause a buildup of the inflammatory or dysbiotic bacteria, causing dysbiosis. So this is going to interfere with your good bacteria. They're going to take up space. Managing stress is going to help create a good environment for your beneficial bacteria to thrive. How to manage stress now, that's a very big topic, but some of my favorites are deep breathing, or going out for a walk in nature, or listening to music that I like. Tip number 7 is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has been shown to improve Akkermansia, Faecalibacterium, and few other species. It also improves the butyrate production in the gut and the bacteria that produce butyrate. So butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid. It's a compound that your beneficial bacteria will produce in the gut. It has beneficial effect in the gut and overall body. It has been connected to improvement in metabolic syndrome and overall inflammation. We want to try to aim for intermittent fasting. I know some people are doing this for weight loss purposes. We just have to be careful, like we don't create more stress on the body. We really have to balance this. So always when I talk about intermittent fasting, I ask people, like, you know what, let's try for a 14-hour fast overnight, a couple of days in the week. So if you finish eating dinner at 7, nothing else after dinner, and then have your breakfast around 9 o'clock. That gives you 14 hours, and see how that makes you feel. Some people love the feeling, some people struggle with it a little bit. So if you have headaches, or if you have low blood sugar, or if you're pregnant or nursing, or if you're under a lot of stress, then maybe this would be a little bit challenging. But a 14-hour fast, a couple days in the week, it's not very stressful, and it's not very demanding on the body. If that feels good, then you can increase to 15 or 16 hours. The sweet spot is 16 hours. More than that, it becomes too much and becomes so stressful. So keep that in mind and go as slow and as comfortable as you can. Tip number 8 is to take a bacillus-based probiotic. I know many of you are going to still be looking for that probiotic supplement that will give you a boost. What I recommend for myself, for my family, and what I recommend for my patients and clients are bacillus or spore-based supplements. They are going to actually recondition the gut so that your own microbiome can improve its own diversity. And there are studies that show that taking spore-based probiotics for 30 days improve beneficial bacteria diversity and richness by 30%. The other advantage of the spore-based probiotics is that they don't get damaged by stomach acid or by the heat in our body. Many of the supplements that you're getting from the store that have to be refrigerated, if you think about it for a minute, your body's temperature is much higher than room temperature. If something has to stay in the fridge to stay alive and beneficial, it's going to be damaged in our own body temperature, plus the acid and the bile and everything that goes into the digestive tract. So I do like spore-based probiotics. They have been a game changer for my clients. I'm going to put information in the description If you're going to get a probiotic supplement, I want to make sure you have access to one that will actually make an impact on your gut. If you decide to get it, make sure that you follow the instructions and start very slowly because it's potent, and we just want to make sure that you're taking it in the correct way. Now that we talked about the 8 things that you can do to improve your beneficial bacteria, let's talk about the 7 things that we want to try to avoid. The first thing that we want to try to avoid to improve our microbiome is unnecessary antibiotics. Antibiotics are going to kill your beneficial bacteria the same time they wipe the pathogens, and even one round of antibiotics can cause a detrimental effect, and it takes the gut 1 to 4 weeks to recover, if any, and it doesn't always recover fully. So we want to save antibiotic use only for when it's absolutely necessary. I know there are certain situations, maybe like dental work or infection, surgeries, or strep throat infection, that you absolutely need an antibiotic. This is a conversation that you're gonna have with your doctor. Remember, this video is for educational purposes. Is this necessary? Can I support my body and my immune system and my gut in other ways? Bacteria are becoming resistant to antibiotics, which means antibiotics are becoming less and less effective. We want to reserve their use to when it's absolutely necessary. Number 2, we want to avoid a sedentary lifestyle. How many of us are sitting on desks most of the time studying or working, and we're not really able to exercise and be active as much as we would like? Studies found that women and men who are more active and athletes tend to have a more diverse microbiome. Pick an activity that you like, that you can maintain. Try to start with that 2 to 3 times a week: walking, running, tennis, swimming, dancing, and start maybe with once a week and then work your way up to 2 or 3 times a week. Tip number 3, we want to avoid NSAIDs as much as possible. So NSAIDs are anti-inflammatory medications, things like ibuprofen, naproxen, and they come in different brand names. Problem with NSAIDs is that they can cause stomach pain, and long-term use can cause damage in the gut. Now, what the studies find is that taking these medications could cause an imbalance in your microbiome or your beneficial bacteria, leading to dysbiosis. The effect is going to depend on the different types of medications that are given, or also interactions with other medications. So if you're taking an NSAID plus something else, then there could be a different effect. In general, it could be the gut is trying to respond to these medications and trying to detox or metabolize them. So in general, because they could have a negative effect on your microbiome and they definitely impact your gut lining, we want to try to avoid NSAIDs as much as possible. So if you feel like you do need things for reducing inflammation, think of food first. Turmeric, which you can incorporate as a spice or make a drink with it. You can include a lot of the antioxidants that I mentioned earlier in the video, or omega-3, whether it's in food or in supplement form. So there are a lot of options to reduce the inflammation, maybe stretching, breathing, guided meditation, spending time in nature, taking an Epsom salt bath, and other strategies that are going to help your body calm down the inflammation. Tip number 4 is to avoid continuous grazing. Now, I talked a little bit earlier about intermittent fasting and how it helps improve certain types of bacteria. Opposite of intermittent fasting is the grazing. So you want to space your meals and snacks about 3 hours apart. So if you're having lunch at 12, finish your lunch and don't eat anything until like 3:30, and then have your dinner at 6:30. So it's okay to have a snack, but we just don't want to graze and keep eating all the time. Its stomach and the small intestine, they have to go through a cleaning motion once you finish eating, and that cleaning motion is going to sweep the undigested food, waste, or even excess bacteria starting from the stomach through the small intestine to the large intestine so that we can excrete them as in poop. But if we eat, we interrupt this process, and then we have a lot of things remaining in the small intestine, and that's going to create dysbiosis or SIBO. And that becomes a problem because it hurts our beneficial bacteria, creates a lot of inflammation there. Tip number 6 is to avoid alcohol. Alcohol is going to reduce the richness of the beneficial bacteria. It is going to increase oxidative damage in the gut, increases leaky gut, and it contributes to liver damage. And it also robs the body from nutrients as part of the body trying to detox it. The ideal is to not consume alcohol. If you are going to choose to drink, limit that to small, like 1 serving once a week. Red wine seems to be maybe a less offensive offensive. And that's not because of the alcohol in red wine, it's because of the antioxidants that come from red grapes. So it is more beneficial to have 100% red grape juice, but if you're going to consume alcohol, red wine may be the least offensive. Tip number 7 is to avoid and quit smoking. Smoking increases oxidative damage. It increases the toxin load on your liver. Smoking actually has been connected to Crohn's disease. And there are studies that people who went through a smoking cessation program actually improved their beneficial bacteria. So if you're currently a smoker, try to reduce it and find programs and tools to help you quit smoking. And obviously, if you don't smoke, don't start, and try to avoid situations where you get exposed to secondhand smoke. And these were my 8 things to try to incorporate and 7 things to avoid to improve your beneficial bacteria and microbiome for overall improved health. If you like this video, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe below. Leave me a comment with a question or anything that you want to share. Which one of these are you going to try to do? And make sure you share this video with a friend, and I'll see you on the next video.